former outstanding quarterback at Archbishop Shaw and Ole Miss. He played 4 seasons for his hometown New Orleans Saints from 1987 to 1990. Went on to play in various indoor leagues and currently serves as host of the John Fourcade Show with Mike Detillier on WHNO TV 20 Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Please give a warm Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation Quarterback Club welcome to John Fourcade. John?
Thank you, Kenny. It's easy to come in, I guess, now and talk about the Saints before the season began. And you know, we did our first show the other day with Mike Detillier, and we went over preseason. And everybody's asking, you know, in preseason games, you know, what do you think of the Saints? And it's not what you think of the Saints. What's the record going to be? And you know, you hear anything from 6-10 to 9-7. And as we look over these New Orleans Saints this upcoming season, you have to really wonder, where's it going to begin at? I mean, watching 4 preseason games, that right there didn't tell me anything about the New Orleans Saints this upcoming season. If you go back and you look, last season's 4 preseason games, they didn't win any. They didn't win any this season. And prior to that, they lost their last one 2 years ago. So they're on an 0-9 preseason string. Preseasons, in my book, doesn't really mean anything. But if you're showing something in preseason, then you got an opportunity to talk about it. And as we talked about it this past week on the show, you know, we break down everything like I'm getting ready to break down here from a defense and offensive standpoint. We know defensively they can't get any worse than 32 in the league, and so they have to get better than that. And so obviously they decided to, you know, get rid of their defensive coordinator, bring in Allen, and he's been here a while with Sean Payton. And so they brought a lot of new faces on board, especially on the defensive line, the front line. Interior defensive guys, and brought some linebacking core in and moved a few guys around. And so basically I'm looking at this going, okay, that's great. That's all a lot of older guys from other teams, and some guys might still can play. We'll find out as the season went along in preseason, as you watch some of these games. The defense played pretty good at moments. You know, they had their moments when against first, and then as it went along, you saw some of these other players that they were trying to play on the defensive side of the ball. What my concerns are is in the secondary. You're going to start probably a P.J. Williams, who hasn't been around. He's been here last season, hadn't really played much. He's probably going to start at one corner. And you got Devin Breaux at the other corner. We know what that's all about. And then you bring senior citizen guy named Roman Harper back to play him in the secondary, which he's probably not going to play much unless something happens to Vaccaro or Jarius Byrd back there. I think the kid Ball from Ohio State's going to get an opportunity to play. So they got some good players in the defensive side of football. But like you said, you can't get any worse than 32 in the league last year. So if we see them at least get to around 20, 22, 23 in the league, I think they're going to improve themselves. Remember, when the Saints won the Super Bowl, they were 15th in the league on defense. And if we can get down to that, that'd be a great improvement. I think the Saints defensively is going to be improved. I think they got some new players, they got some fresh players, and they got to prove something to somebody. I mean, these guys are here, they've been around, and a lot of veteran players. So I'm not really worried much on the defensive side of the ball. What I'm worried about, offensive side of football. And people say, oh, you got Drew Brees. Who's going to protect Drew Brees? The problem I see with the New Orleans Saints right now is, you know, I play that position. I know how it feels to play quarterback, and, you know, I used to advertise quite a bit. I didn't get my shoes. And, you know, when I was always on my back, I got free advertising to a lot of people out there. And you want to keep Drew Brees upright. This offensive line only kept 7 players. They kept 7 offensive linemen when they made their cuts this past week. It's usually unheard of. You usually keep anywhere 8 to 10. They're keeping 7 players, and they surely don't know yet who's going to start other than the center and the left tackle. Who's going to play both guards? And, you know, Zach Streif's up in ages, and he's not really played well for them right now. So, you know, they're going to be looking around for some offensive linemen. That's where the key decisions have to be made. The receiving core, you got a couple guys here that we brought back last year. Snead's very good. You know what he can do. You know what Cook can do. The only problem is they're both under 6 foot tall. They can both run. The young man from Ohio State, Michael Thomas, is going to be a great player for us. He's a big guy. I think you'll start seeing him more in the red zone. You know, the Saints like to get in the red zone. They're more tight end happy in the red zone. I don't see it clicking right now with this new tight end they brought in from Indianapolis with Drew Brees. Drew is definitely liking the fact the young man from Ohio State is go-to guy in the red zone. And then you brought Lewis in, a young kid who's probably going to be a return specialist guy and a fifth receiver, but he's also small. So right now, you know, we're going to look hard on the receiving core and who's going to step up and be the receiving core. The running back game, you know, Ingram is Ingram. We'll see if we can get there. I thought Spiller had a pretty good preseason this year. Claudette, they cut, but they brought back and they signed him on the practice roster. Hightower, I'm not sure about Hightower. They got some young guys back there. Overall, basically, the offense is going to go as well as Drew Brees can go. If Drew's upright and healthy, I think the offense can put some points on the board, but they got to protect, and it all matters with your offensive line, guys. We all know that. You know it as well as high school, you know as well as in college football. If you got a pretty good offensive line, it'll dictate your running game. And in the NFL, you got to be able to run the football. If the Saints can't get more than 120 yards a game, they're in trouble. They got to be able to run the football. They can't go out right now and throw 50 times a game and expect to win. Now, when it comes to what do you think the Saints' overall record's going to be, and you know, it can be anywhere from 8-8, 9-7 on a good day. You can also see a 7-9 team here. They need some things to help them out in their conference. We know what Carolina's going to bring to the table. Cam Newton, a great defense, and they played in the Super Bowl last year, so you expect them to be back. Look at Tampa Bay right now. That's a good and up-and-coming team. Jameis Winston is obviously a good quarterback for them. They made a coaching change. They're going to be tough in the division. And you got the Atlanta Falcons. I think Atlanta's going to be much better this season than they have been in the past. Matt Ryan is Matt Ryan. Julio Jones is Julio Jones. So they got a tough division. And with all that being said, if the Saints can get off to a good start, you play by quarters. It's every 4 games, every 4 games, every 4 games, and every 4 games. You basically determine how you're going to rack up your team and your winning percentages. So if they can start out good, 3-1, 2-2. We'll see what happens there. But it doesn't get easy for the Saints. It's a tough division, and it's a tough conference they have to play. They play the teams in the West, Seattle, San Francisco, and then they play Denver. They play Kansas City, San Diego. So it doesn't get any easier for them. Oakland Raiders come in, first game of the season, a very good team. With all that being said, I'll say this. I think the Saints are going to probably be anywhere from 8-8 to a lockout, maybe a 9-7. Will they make the playoffs? It's going to be tough for them. And I'll open it up for questions. If anybody's got any particular questions, raise your hand. Get the mic to you.
The DN that they traded for from Miami, did they release him? Or?
Yes, McCain.
Yeah.
They released McCain, and you know, it's when you trade for a guy, you go get a guy the last week of preseason. He'd have to really shine so well in the preseason game for you. And then you play your 4th preseason game, basically you're playing leftovers. It's playing 4th against 4th, 3rd against 3rd. You don't get many guys, but when you go and trade for a guy like that, I think they gave up a 7th round pick. I don't understand that move. I really don't understand that. But hey, you know, that's the problem they've been having here at the Saints. They've been all saying it's Peyton and Loomis doesn't really do well at bringing in players. They go and get players, and it's kind of proven over the years. But yeah, he didn't make the roster. Now, that doesn't mean he can't come back. You know, Baltimore Ravens cut their running back, and then after he went through waivers, they brought him back. And a lot of times you do that. You can bring a guy back. But between now and between now and Saturday, they'll be able to, change some roster moves and make some changes. But yeah, the guy that brought in, I mean, he wasn't a big guy at that. He's maybe about 230 pounds as a defensive end, rush in. That's not going to get it in the NFL.
You just threw away a 7th round pick.
Pretty much.
How's the guy at Dallas doing from LSU that we could have had for free? How's he doing? And do you know why we just have this aversion to giving people a chance like that?
Collins, you thought about the Collins kid from LSU. It freaks me out to understand why. He was a free agent. Anybody could have had him. Maybe they thought that he was bad luggage. Right up the road there, you're that close to LSU, you pretty much got to know about LSU. When you're that close to the university and the talent that LSU has, they have a lot of offensive lineman talent, and at that university right there, you can pick up probably the backup guys and use in your team. But yeah, Collins got away. He's going to be an all-pro. He's going to start for the Dallas Cowboys. He'll make that money up he didn't get as a #1 draft pick, I guarantee you. He's a solid player. But that's just, it goes with your recruiting here. It's kind of like I say recruiting, that's college ball, recruiting. But you got to have scouts. You got to have people out there looking and understand. That's why I think the problem with the New Orleans Saints is their scouting department and their evaluating of talent is not the best in the league. It used to be. I mean, you go back many years and look at it, but it's not there right now. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I knew you would get one.
Can I ask a question? It's not a Saints question.
Oh, here we go.
Well, no, because I didn't expect Coach Bagley would have to answer hard questions or a question that wasn't politically correct. But so, what are your thoughts? I know you must think about LSU a little bit, talk about LSU on radio shows. You know, it seems like everybody in here would agree to this, that it was the same old offense we ran last year. And
I know what you're going. My take is this: I'm prejudiced to one quarterback who's not playing there. I thought he should have been signed at LSU. He's not, but he'll start this weekend as a freshman against the Georgia Bulldogs at Georgia. That's just my take. They said he's too small. He's 6 foot 190. I think the guy from Texas won the game the other night, 6 foot 190, freshman. So I just got my take on that. But I look at the take on Harris. I've seen Harris play high school football. I've watched him. He has not progressed. It's all we've heard about is how he's done so well in the offseason. This offense is a good offense for a quarterback who's a pro-style quarterback. This is a pro-style offense. It's not the spread offense. If you watched the games last night, you watched what Florida State did against Ole Miss. Granted, I went to Ole Miss. I wasn't a happy camper. But the spread offense and the offense Florida State runs is sort of like what the offense Florida State has. It's sort of like what LSU wants to get to. But you got to have a single caller. You got to have a guy who can throw the ball. You got to have a guy who's got accuracy, and I don't see that right now with Harris. I don't see them trying. You can't throw the ball 21 times in the SEC and expect to win. 21 passes. You can't be a 53% completion guy in college football and expect to win. And I've been there, done that. I know what it takes. I see things, and they have all the talent in the world at LSU. You got a great line, great running backs. All you need is a guy is when you need him on third down, you need certain plays. You got to make a play every now and then. But they're not putting him in position to do that. It's their offense is, it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then throw when we have to throw and try to win a football game. But how can you not in the SEC, and I've said this many times, how can SEC teams not get quarterbacks in the SEC?
Well, it was interesting because last year it seemed like Les kind of hung on because he's a good guy, which I don't know him, but I would assume he's a good guy. But also the national media was like, how can you get rid of a guy who's winning 10 games a year? How can you do this? How can you do that? Well, I saw some guys on ESPN, and those guys were like, well, Les said he was going to change, but he's not changing. So they even kind of, I don't know if they turned, but they're getting to the point where it's just the same old thing.
Well, he did change last year. Didn't he fire his defensive coordinator and brought in a new guy? And we all thought he maybe make some adjustments with the offensive coordinator. I can't, Bill, I wish I could give you those answers. I just see what you're seeing. This is not a very good offensive football club. It hasn't been that way in 3 or 4 years. It just hasn't. I can't see why it does. You can't. You got a great line. You got great receivers. You got good running backs. Your defense is pretty doggone good. And how do you not have a quarterback who can come in here and do the things that you would expect? Some guy, Alabama can do it, and they get it done. And it is what it is. And it's first game of the season for them. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll make some changes. But I wouldn't go by what happens this weekend because obviously they're not playing the opponents that you would expect them to play. But let's just see. Let's see what happens. If they run the table and go undefeated for the rest of the season, they're in the West Championship game, and we'll see what happens. But we shall see. Any last questions? All right. Thank you guys again for having me here. I appreciate it.